happening, everybody? Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you're having a good day. I wanted to talk a little bit about some Buddy Guy today. And I happen to be listening to the song The Things That I Used to Do, which is, of course, an old Guitar Slim tune. But I was listening to Buddy Guy's recording of that. Saw a really interesting article recently. I don't know if it was the New Yorker or some such thing. But it was a really cool article and lots of good stuff in it about Buddy and sort of just him kind of being the last living link to a lot of the original bluesmen, from the 40s and 50s and 60s. And really he's in many ways the last one, and he's got a really interesting career, playing behind like Muddy Waters and all these other guys back in the Chess Records days. And it's just really interesting that he really doesn't, we don't realize how little of his own recordings he actually has. He's done so many, but usually it's for somebody else. So anyway, I was listening to a recording of The Things That I Used to Do, which is the way he does it, it's a blues in A. So it's not like we're talking about anything super amazing or incredible here. It's a blues in A. Right, nothing fancy at all. So the really cool thing is the first chord, which is an E augmented. So it's the E. This is like, use this in Beatles. There's a Beatles song that starts with this too. Oh darling, right? Something like that. Anyway, it's E augmented. So 7th fret on the 5th string, and then the 3rd is the 6th fret on the 4th string. The sharp 5 is the 5th fret on the 3rd string, and then you also get a root there at the 5th fret of the 2nd string. Kind of fun. But from there, it's, like I say, blues in A. All right, so that's not necessarily what makes this super interesting. Excuse me while I move my pedal. Too many pedals. Too much going on. But I do want to. But let me throw this down into my looper, because I think it's useful to kind of see it go by. So I like to always demonstrate how I create these little things that I practice over. So here we go. 2, 3, 4. So there's my 4 chord. It's a quick change blues. Up to the 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord. Nice and steady, right? Not fast, not super slow. For the E, I'm going to go down low, just to stay out of the way. The 4. The 1 and the 5. Right, now I got it programmed in. All right, so here's what I want to kind of show you is the pattern that Buddy likes to use, really for a good portion of the song, is all right here. Okay, so this is not, it kind of looks like the A major blues scale. If we're playing A major blues here, we would play box 2. All right, but really he doesn't even use all of that. All he does for the most part is the flatted 3rd and the 3rd, which is the 5th and 6th frets on the 3rd string, the 5th and 7th frets on the 2nd string, and the 5th and 7th frets on the 1st string. And then if it's on the 1 chord, and he really wants to get the more major sound, he'll slide up to that C sharp, which would be into box 3. And typically he slides it, which I think is more of a nod to Guitar Slim, because Guitar Slim really didn't bend. But you could also bend it. And by the way, if you want to get Buddy's tone, crank the tone knobs up, go to the bridge position pickup on your Strat, and let it zing. He's definitely got a very bright cutting tone. I can't even hardly get that bright of a tone because I don't normally play with that. But anyway, and he'll just kind of throw these notes together. And the one thing that I was really listening for a lot, because I was thinking about, okay, I think I'm going to talk about this afternoon. And so what I was really listening for was a pattern. Okay, a lot of times I like to listen to patterns. I wanted to say, okay, this is the definitive Buddy Guy lick for this song. Here you go. There isn't one. There really isn't. It's that group of notes, right? It's this, but he'll kind of do little tweedlies. Usually it's just a hammer on there, but on the second and third string, he'll throw down a little tweedly. Maybe slide up. Like I said, if it's over the one chord, and it's usually and this is the one chord, so he'll slide it up maybe. But it's usually, like I say, it's some kind of little flurry. And so it's a great time, 1 and 2 and just something like that. 1, 2, 3, and it's really the three kind of random. It's just kind of like whenever the mood strikes. And the lick itself isn't really in time. You couldn't really count it. It's a flurry. Okay, and this is one thing that's very unique about Buddy Guy, is that he played very fast, which of course is somewhat unusual for, you know, the older bluesmen. A lot of times didn't play that fast. And he does. He's like Johnny Winter fast sometimes. There's a lot of notes that come out, but they also don't tend to come out evenly, or they tend to come out in bursts at somewhat random times. Okay, so this is an unusual thing, and it can be hard, really hard, if you're new to improvising and new to soloing. It can be challenging to not have sort of that anchor of the time, right? We kind of cling to the time. I mean, you hear me talk about counting so often. It's your lifeline when you're learning, is playing to the time and staying. That's how you know where you are, is you're counting the beats and you're staying with the beats and all this stuff. And so here I'm telling you, yeah, you kind of got to let that go out the window. Okay? What that doesn't mean that you let the time go out the window. That means that your sense of time has to be really good. Your internal clock that's listening to the band and that knows where you are in the chord progression and all that has to be on autopilot. And what that allows you to do as the soloist is to kind of float above it and just sort of drop down. Right? And the entire first two chords, there's 2 vocal choruses up front. All of the fills between the lines are in those select few notes. And maybe he'll go up. And I don't even think there's a bend. I can't even remember an instance where there's a bend. It really is that simple. Okay, and then what happens is it gets to the solo. And it starts out pretty much the same way. And then after a little while, it goes to the 4 chord. Now here's what's cool, is that this scale should not work over the 4 chord, okay? This note right here, in particular, is a half step off. This is a C sharp. The 4 chord is a D7, which has a flatted 7th, which is a C natural. Okay, so that's C natural, no bueno against the C sharp. But all of the other notes are totally good and totally valid. And so what you'll notice is that Buddy, during that 4 chord, just lays off of the 3rd string and just plays here. And if he does a bend, it's only a half step. Okay, so it's almost kind of a B.B. King type of thing where you're working with that little 4-note group which sounds fine over the 4 chord, okay, as long as you stay off the third. And if he does go to the third, he goes only the half step to the C sharp, or to the C, and not to the C sharp, right? And you can get away with that. As well, in the solo, he switches over to the minor pentatonic. So over the 1 chord, he might, and then when the 4 chord comes along, he'll just do the little 4 notes and then switch to a little box 1 thing. So there's a really cool kind of back and forth that goes on right there. So if you were going to practice this, you know, I think it's important, you know, when you get, this is an approach, right? This is an idea. There's no specific lick here, so we're talking about an approach. So how are you going to practice that? Okay, well, I played a 12-bar blues into my looper. I'm going to solo over it. I'm going to kind of try this out a little bit, right? So what I'm going to do, and what I encourage you to do, chord, go with those 6 notes. Even 7 if you want to reach up. Right? When it comes to the 4 chord, you have to stick to the top 2 strings. Or box 1. And then over the 5 chord, it's the same as the 4 chord as far as, you know, what's available to you. Okay? So I'm just going to play a little, just for a second, and just kind of show you how I might approach that, and I'll sort of call out what I'm doing as I go. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Here's my 1 chord. Here's my 4 chord. Here's 1 chord again. Here's my 4 chord. Here's my 1 chord again, so I'm going to go back to this. And just kind of notice I'm doing these little short bursts. Here's the 5. Here's the 4 chord. Because I'm trying to get it. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here is show you how you can sort of start to, you know, cop the style of somebody else, right? If we look at, okay, here's the patterns that they use, and rhythmically they kind of do these little bursts, these little fast bursts. Okay, well then you can try to do that. You can take just a few notes. That's you know, 2nd string, 1st string, tweedly, and back. I mean, it's not complicated. It's never going to be complicated, right? And you can kind of play around with that at whatever pace feels comfortable to you. You might not be able to and throw it out that fast. That's okay. That will still sound like a burst, right? If it's out of time, it doesn't have to be super fast, right? As long as it's only a handful of notes, blah, and you just throw it out and you kind of get that burst out there, it can be a really, really cool sound. If you're more of a classic rocker, think Ritchie Blackmore. He used to do this a lot as well. He would play these kind of dazzling bursts and then go away, and I always kind of really dug that. And I think it's a huge part of Buddy Guy's sound, and I think it's absolutely worth your time to try and play with that. See if you can make it work for you. All right, so none of my cool little graphics and things seem to be working today, so I don't get to tell you about the fact that you can sign up for the email list. gobgu.com/thelist if you're not on my email list. Of course, subscribe, youtube.com/bluesguitarunleashed. If you're a Facebooker, follow the facebook.com/bluesguitarunleashed page. You can check out the Blues Guitar Unleashed All Access Pass at gobgu.com/all access. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. So I'll say farewell. Have some fun with this. Try it out for yourself. And I'll see you soon. Take care.